All right, let's talk about something fundamental. Let's talk about desire. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on human pleasure. Not the myths, not the pop culture version, but the actual biology. We're going to get to the heart of how it all really works. And we're going to start with this pretty provocative statement. It kind of sets the stage for everything we're about to explore. It makes you ask, right? How much of what we think we know about pleasure has been defined by someone else's perspective? Let's find out. So before we get into any of the mechanics, the how-tos, we have to talk about the environment. Where does desire even begin? Because it doesn't start with a touch. It starts with the feeling, a feeling of being completely safe and relaxed. And this, right here, is the biggest secret of all. Arousal isn't some switch you can just flip on. It's a state you ease into. And that state absolutely requires a foundation of safety. Without that feeling of profound relaxation, your body's pleasure responses are, biologically blocked. Okay, so here's the science behind it. For arousal to even start, you need to activate what's called your parasympathetic nervous system. Just think of it as your body's rest and digest mode. When you're stressed out or anxious, your fight or flight response kicks in, and it literally shuts down the pathways to pleasure. So that first step, it's always relaxation. This is such a powerful way to think about it. It's a total mindset shift. The second you take away the pressure of a specific goal, like having an orgasm, you suddenly create all the space for pleasure to just build, to be explored. It becomes about the journey, not just the finish line. So now that we get how important that relaxed state is, let's look at what's physically happening. What is our body actually doing when all the conditions are just right for pleasure? Let's talk mechanics. When you strip it all down, the basic principle of arousal is the same for everyone. The penis and the clitoris, they're made of the same kind of stuff, erectile tissue. And during arousal, they both do the exact same thing. They fill with blood. What we call an erection is actually a shared biological experience. The source material had this beautiful way of describing it, this Spanish phrase, como que florece. It means as if it blooms. And that's such a perfect image, isn't it? It captures the idea that the entire vulva, not just one tiny point, becomes engorged with blood. It blossoms. And here's the logical next step. Since the biology is the same, well, the potential for problems is the same too. Female erectile dysfunction, it's a real thing, and it's so often overlooked. It just goes to show you that the female arousal process is every bit as complex and important. This all kind of begs the question, right? If the biology is so similar, why is our understanding of it so different? The answer might be in the maps we've been using to navigate the body. And more importantly, who was holding the pen? Remember that quote from the very beginning about planting flags? Well, this is what that looks like. Every single one of these parts of the female anatomy is named after the man who discovered it. It's like a history of male ownership literally written onto the female body. And that brings us to the most famous flag of all, the Grafenberg spot, the G-spot. For decades, it's been built up into this myth, right? This magic button for female pleasure. But is it? Well, the simple biological answer is no. It's not a button. There is no single little spot you can just press to magically create pleasure. It just doesn't exist. So what are people feeling then? What is that area? It's not a spot, it's a zone. It's a whole complex network of internal erectile tissue, including the internal parts of the clitoris. The G-spot isn't a destination. It's just a name for a region that gets sensitive when it's aroused, when it blooms. Okay, so we've set the mood, we get the mechanics of arousal. Now let's move to the peak of the experience. Let's talk about orgasms and the science of what's happening during that release. This is a pretty incredible biological fact, and it all comes down to blood flow. See, after an orgasm, blood drains away from erectile tissue. In men, that usually happens pretty fast, but in women, the blood recedes much more slowly, which keeps the clitoral tissues engorged and sensitive. And that makes it possible to keep going. And that brings us to another topic that is surrounded by myth and, frankly, a lot of sensationalism, female ejaculation, or what people call squirting. Let's just separate the facts from the fiction here and understand the biology. So let's be super clear. Female ejaculation is a real physiological thing. It's not a myth, it's not pee, it's not just extra lubrication. It's the expulsion of a specific fluid from a specific set of glands, and it's a completely normal biological process. And here is the part that might just blow your mind. Those glands are called the Skene's glands. And what are they? They are the biological equivalent of the male prostate. They develop from the exact same embryonic tissue, they serve the same function, making them, literally, the female prostate. All right, for our last section, we're going to push the boundaries of the map a little bit further. We're going to explore some areas of pleasure that are often kept quiet or seen as taboo, but when you get right down to it, are just biology. This data right here might challenge a few assumptions. When it comes to enjoying anal pleasure, it has absolutely nothing to do with sexual orientation. Almost the exact same percentage of heterosexual and homosexual men report enjoying it. And why? The biology is simple. That area is just packed with pleasure-receptive nerve endings. And the argument from the source is basically that our social taboos are just this historical thing we've inherited, and it stops a lot of people from exploring what is, biologically speaking, just a great door to pleasure. And really, that's the bottom line here, isn't it? Your nerves don't know about social constructs. Your body doesn't care about labels. Pleasure is a biological response, and the potential for it is just built into all of us, no matter who we are. So, we've covered a lot of ground, right? From why safety is the key that unlocks everything, to how our bodies are so fundamentally alike, to the fact that there's a female prostate. And through it all, one simple truth keeps coming up. The body has its own language, its own wisdom. The only real question is, are we taking the time to listen?